We all know that you stay pretty busy during your work days, but in your free time after a long day, what helps you unwind?
What helps me unwind first is to get off of Zoom. That's okay. Secondly, I am, and Nicole knows this. I love sports. I love all my teams, and there's nothing better than just being able to sit back and watch sports. And I know your Giants are playing tonight. They're playing the Buccaneers, and I hope you guys win because I don't like the Buccaneers. But I love watching sports. That's something that is I can get stressed out about it, but it's more of a it's not I don't know. It's just something that I can just not have to worry about so much. I mean, it's if my teams are playing or if other, I just enjoy watching sports. Um, while being involved as an interpreter on campus, I've also been involved with a lot of sports teams and interpreting for all the deaf athletes. So sports and athletes are very near and dear to my heart as well. I swam and I ran track and I played tennis and I was on a cycling team for many years. I thought I was going to become a sports medicine therapist, and then I realized you have to understand all the human parts of the body, and I was like, ain't nobody got time for that. So sports are very, very near and dear to me. Other than that, if there's no sporting events on, then I really do enjoy sitting down and actually reading a good book. I know that's rare. Everyone uses Kindle, but I actually like a nice hard-covered or soft-covered book just to sit down and read at my leisure. One of my favorite books is Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, which talks about the Trail of Tears that happened when the Native Americans were forced off the reservation or forced off their land and moved to a reservation in South Dakota and North Dakota. And it's called the Trail of Tears because of the number of deaths that happened during this time, and it happened during the winter when they were forced to be moved from the United States government, and they were forced to be moved from the United States military. And it's such a great book. It really does a great job of explaining in detail what exactly transpired prior to them being forced to be moved, and then during the duration of when they had to be moved, and then once they were moved and they were put onto a reservation, and what their life was like after that. It's a great book. If you ever get a chance, it's pretty deep. I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of people who have read this book and they come back to me and like, I had no idea. Oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, it's deep, and it'll grab you at your heart and it'll make you think. But it's a great book. Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee is a great book. I recommend anybody who has a lot of time to read, because it does show the chronological history of what happened to the Native Americans when they were moved from the South up to the North to an area that they'd never been to before, and how they adjusted.
What would you like to see from allies beyond social media?
Um, hmm. I guess I would like to see more of an awareness about my people's culture. I would like to see more of an understanding of our history, and again, emphasizing the educational aspect of Native Americans, and that diversity that we have within our own culture is amazing as well. I grew up in Maine, but I've been to North Dakota, South Dakota, New Mexico, Canada. I've been to all these other areas. And when I'm doing these conferences, specifically for the Intertribal Deaf Council Conference, which is a group of all deaf Native Americans who travel to get together every year, and now it's every 2 years, to discuss their culture. Because as deaf Native Americans, many of them went to a school for the deaf. So they did not grow up on the reservation. They did not grow up understanding their culture. So this is an opportunity for them to learn more. And one thing that I've definitely noticed is that there is a lot of diversity within my people's culture. I remember the first time I was in Oklahoma City interpreting for a conference there, and the MC looked at me and he said to me, "So you're Native American, but where are you from?" And I said to him, "I'm from Alaska, and my nation of people are the Tlinkits." And he was like, "A Tlingit? We have a Tlingit here." And he said to everybody in the stadium, he was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Tlingit in the house from Alaska." And he looked up and he was like, "I never knew you guys were so tall." And I looked at him and I was like, "What is your nation?" He was like, "Well, I'm Chippewa." And I was like, "Well, I never knew you guys were so short." A little humor that we had that we were sharing between each other, but it was a great opportunity for us, because again, we there's so much diversity within our own culture. So education is something that allies definitely could help us out with getting the word out that we're not extinct. We're still around here, people. Okay, you tried, but you did not succeed. Sorry. And I guess just being more supportive. One of the things that our culture is very open. We accept people from all different backgrounds, all different nationalities. Any of our events, unless it's a closed event, but I would say 90% of our events are open to the public. Anybody can come to a Native American event and learn about our culture and our dancing and our gallery, and our regalia, and our art and our food and our songs and our values, our customs. Um, they're all open. And people think that, oh, it's a Native American event, I can't go because I'm not Native American, which is the complete opposite. We welcome you to come. We want you to come so that you can become educated and become familiar with us. We've always been that way and we always will be that way. The only ones that you probably wouldn't be allowed to go to would be like a sweat lodge, um, which is where it's specifically a group of people that are getting together. Usually it's only males and only females, and that's for spiritual purposes, for us to do our own cleansing. Um, and then if you're going to be going on a vision quest, that's something that you would be invited to do. But yeah, more education about who we are and that we're still here, and um, we're not going away. Sorry.
Well, I know you've shared a lot with us, Jonathan, but is there anything else you'd like to share with the world more about your story, about your experience?
Getting back to the educational aspect of teaching people about our culture is something that's very, very important. Growing up as a Native American here in this time and day is very difficult compared to what it was like, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40 years ago. It's more difficult because we're not recognized. It's more difficult because, um, again, people think that we're extinct. It's more difficult because of what's happening with the political climate, and that we have certain leaders who don't even recognize our race of people. It's being more difficult because of the injustice that's been happening and that keeps on happening. Um, Putting that aside, it's also been at the same time very rewarding because I know that in my heart and in my mind that my values, my customs, my beliefs are valued for me as an individual. And that when I go to the Native American festivals and I see my people and they see me, and we don't even have to look at each other. We know that we're still here and we still celebrate our lives and we still celebrate our culture. Um, COVID is something that we didn't expect to happen, nor did anyone else, but we did not know that it would be as impactful on our people as it has been. We've lost a lot of people because of COVID. A lot of Native Americans have passed away because of COVID. And it's simply because of the reason we don't have running water, we don't have electricity, and we live in a very small community, and social distancing is not part of our culture. And that's something that you just don't see on the news. And then this whole idea of the mascot, I just wish that people would understand. They think, oh, it's a Native American mascot. You should be proud of that. You should be proud of the fact that, you know, there's a mascot being used. And I don't feel any pride in having a mascot being used to represent my people and how it's being portrayed. I never have, I never will, and I definitely will not support any team that has a Native American as a mascot, ever. I'm very strongly opinionated about that, in case you haven't noticed, but I just think that that's something that people should know, that it's not something to be proud about. It's something you need to get rid of. And we need to get rid of the stereotypes, we need to get rid of the mascots, and we need to actually value not just our people, but all people and what we have to offer.